I need to talk to you. Can you sign this? What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? I want a divorce. You're no longer needed. I didn't understand what my husband meant by saying I was no longer needed. What does that even mean? And he brought divorce papers. What is he thinking? You want a divorce from me? I don't understand. What happened? Did I do something wrong? It's not that you did something wrong, it's just that you've become an obstacle. Actually, I got someone else pregnant. What? I was too shocked to speak. I wasn't pregnant. We had tried to conceive since getting married, but perhaps due to my difficulty in getting pregnant, we hadn't been blessed with a child. I hadn't been particularly eager for children, given my focus on my career. But could it be that he had fathered a child with his mistress? I'm not pregnant, though. As if a menopausal hag like you could get pregnant? Can't produce a child, don't earn much, you've got no appeal as a woman. You were only useful as a housekeeper for a few years. I've decided to remarry someone young and fresh, so you're no longer needed. He said this with a smirk. I couldn't comprehend what he was thinking or feeling. But one thing was clear. This was the end of his humanity. So, you've been cheating. That's despicable. Aren't you going to apologize for betraying me? Why should I apologize? I've been taking care of a charmless woman like you all this time. If anything, you should be thanking me for the years of care. At this point, I couldn't remain silent. There was a fact I hadn't shared with my husband yet, a fact that could turn the tables. My name is Lindsay, and I currently run a company. This company was managed by my father before he fell ill, and I took over as the president. I believe you can keep it going. Do your best. Don't worry about the company, leave it to me. You should focus on your health. I had never managed a company before, but after graduating from college, I started working at a small venture company and learned management among other things. I believed I understood what was essential for running a business. And despite the initial struggles, I managed to keep the company afloat with help from the senior staff. Lindsay, you've been working non-stop recently, are you okay? You need to take a break for both your mental and physical health. No. If I don't work, who will follow? Besides, I've always been physically strong, so don't worry. The concern from my employees was real as I worked from morning till night, truly feeling the fatigue. However, I also felt a deep responsibility as the president not to let down what my father had built. Moreover, acting like a lord would not inspire anyone to follow me. So, I worked harder and continued to push myself. This dedication led to the company's growth, increasing our annual turnover significantly. Although I received a modest salary, I made sure to reward my employees well, contributing to a positive atmosphere within the company. With the business stabilizing, I began to allocate more time for my personal life, realizing it was time to consider marriage. And so, I started looking for a partner. Among the men I met, there was one who stood out because he was incredibly kind and showed a lot of interest in me. I had a great time today. How about we go out for dinner again next week? Of course. I'm free next weekend, so let's get in touch. Got it. Take care on your way home. Although he wasn't exactly my type, I understood the difference between couples and married partners, as my friends were also married. By this age, I knew how to choose a life partner. He might not have been my type, but I could trust him as a person. And I felt we could build a good marital relationship together. After dating for about 6 months, we decided to get married. It wasn't a romantic wedding, and we weren't exactly young. But we were looking forward to living a happy married life in our own way. However, there was something I hadn't told my husband yet. It was about the business I was running. I had mentioned that I inherited a company from my father, but I said it was making around $100,000 a year, and that my salary was lower than the average salaryman. I didn't intend to hide our financial status. I just believed that money wasn't that important in an equal marriage. That's why I didn't talk about the exact figures. Moreover, the company was actually making close to $20 million a year. But since I was only taking a slightly higher salary than the average salaryman, I didn't consider myself rich. My husband was busy with work, so I thought we could talk about the company in more detail once things settled down. However, 6 months into our marriage, one day, "Hey, where were you last night?" "Last night? I heard from a friend who works at a nightclub that you were there." "What's that about?" I confronted my husband when he returned from work, and it wasn't a lie. A high school friend who now works as a bouncer at a nightclub had contacted me. He said my husband was at the nightclub with some young men. Going to a nightclub doesn't immediately mean infidelity, and I understand that some work-related outings are inevitable. However, it wasn't a pleasant thought. According to my friend, my husband brought along a junior from his company. If he had been taken there by a senior or a boss, I might have understood, but taking a junior suggests he went willingly. Why would a married man do such a thing voluntarily? I had those feelings. And taking a junior with you. Why would you do that? Didn't you think about how I would feel? I have to let the juniors have some fun too, right? Besides, if I get promoted, they'll become my subordinates. So it's important to build good relationships. But you don't need to go to a nightclub for that. I think just going to a bar for drinks would be fine. What? Are you jealous? We're both adults here, so let's not get jealous over something like this. My husband chuckled, dismissing my concerns in a belittling manner. Jealousy? Indeed, I felt jealous. It might be embarrassing at our age. But if he can't consider other people's feelings and act appropriately, then that's just as ridiculous. It's unfair that I'm the only one being blamed. Don't you care about my feelings at all? I don't like it, so you could at least stop. It's not a big deal, right? We're going to be married for many years. So you need to be okay with a little womanizing here and there. My husband acted as if he was completely blameless. Does he truly believe he's done nothing wrong? Despite me expressing my discomfort, he only insists on his point of view. This was not a discussion but a one-way conversation, so continuing seemed pointless. That day, I returned to my room, feeling something I hadn't during our dating period. Perhaps this was my husband's true nature. He prioritizes himself above all else, indifferent to how his actions affect others. After that, I started to see my husband differently. When I carefully observed his words and actions in our daily life, his self-centered behavior stood out. Welcome home. Dinner is ready. I've already eaten, so no worries. Is the bath ready? I want to use bath salts today, so could you prepare that for me? Again? If you're going to eat out, you should let me know. Then, I wouldn't wait for you and would only prepare my own meal. Also, the bath is already heated, so you can warm it up yourself. You're always so nagging. And it's with bath salts, right? No, but it's a waste of water to refill it just for that. I'm in the mood for the bath salts today, so nothing else will do. Facing my husband, who acted as if what he was saying was completely natural, I was left speechless. However, considering his self-centered nature, this was not surprising. My husband pays for the major expenses like rent and the car. In contrast, I cover living expenses such as utilities and groceries. Since it's not his money, he doesn't hesitate to ask for the bath to be refilled. If he thought about our finances or me, he wouldn't say such things. Even the matter of bath salts. I had repeatedly told him to let me know in advance if he wanted something specific. Yet, my husband, finding it too bothersome to communicate, would complain afterward. I was nearing my breaking point. Despite repeatedly addressing the issue, there was no improvement, and my anger reached its peak. Leaving things as they were would only lead to escalation. Believing that I needed to speak up now to prevent our relationship from deteriorating, I decided to confront him strongly today. You know, I've been thinking, you've been quite selfish lately. A little communication doesn't take much effort, so can't you consider me a bit more? I'm the one paying for the water, so please stop wasting it. We're not exactly swimming in money, you know? Are you serious with that? I'm this upset because I'm serious. Can't you understand my feelings? Don't be ridiculous. How dare you, a wife, talk back to her husband like that? With that, he slammed his hand on the table in front of us. The impact quickened my heartbeat, leaving me speechless. The irritation and anger I had felt towards my husband disappeared, replaced only by fear. For the first time, I was truly frightened by this side of him. I feared that if I continued to confront him, he might physically lash out at me. At that moment, the resolve to stand up to him vanished, replaced by a deep-seated desire to avoid further angering him. Don't get cocky just because you're the wife. Stop joking around. You should think about your place before you speak. There's no reason for a woman to defy a man. I understand. I'm sorry for making you angry. Don't make me angry again, okay? There's only one thing I'm asking from you: consider your position more carefully. After saying that, he went back to his room. Fearing further anger, I immediately went to refill the bath, adding the bath salts he had requested. By then, the cost of refilling the bath was the least of my concerns. My only thought was how to avoid angering him further. From that point on, my perception and feelings towards my husband changed drastically. My focus shifted from maintaining a good marital relationship to managing his moods successfully. To avoid upsetting him, I quickly agreed to everything he said and never voiced any minor complaints. The idea of an equal relationship was long gone. Far from the image of a happy marriage, I was afraid of seeing that side of him again. This experience became a significant trauma for me, leading to a life of walking on eggshells around my husband. Then, one day, I need to talk to you. Can you sign this? What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? I want a divorce. You're no longer needed. I didn't understand what my husband meant by saying I was no longer needed. What does that even mean? And bringing divorce papers. What is he thinking? Ever since that day, I've been doing everything my husband asked. If he wanted something different for dinner, even if I had already prepared something, I would make it again. I never complained about his whims. So, why was he upset with me? However, getting emotional might set him off again. Fearing this, I carefully chose my words to not provoke his anger. You want a divorce from me? I don't understand. What happened? Did I do something wrong? It's not that you did something wrong, it's just that you've become an obstacle. Actually, I got someone else pregnant. What? I was too shocked to speak. I wasn't pregnant. We had tried to conceive since getting married. But perhaps due to my difficulty in getting pregnant, we hadn't been blessed with a child. I hadn't been particularly eager for children, given my focus on my career. But could it be that he had fathered a child with his mistress? I'm not pregnant, though. As if a menopausal hag like you could get pregnant? Can't produce a child, don't earn much, you've got no appeal as a woman. You were only useful as a housekeeper for a few years. I've decided to remarry someone young and fresh, so you're no longer needed. He said this with a smirk. I couldn't comprehend what he was thinking or feeling. But one thing was clear. This was the end of his humanity. Didn't he have a conscience? Did he think he could do anything to me without remorse? I hardly understood his feelings, nor did I want to. Looking back, I realize I could have been financially independent. So there was no need to rely so heavily on my husband. However, if I were to divorce now, I couldn't be sure when or if I'd be able to remarry. I wasn't very confident in my looks, and considering my age, getting divorced now might make it harder to remarry. That's why I kept choosing the stability that was right in front of me. So, you've been cheating. That's despicable. Aren't you going to apologize for betraying me? Why should I apologize? I've been taking care of a charmless woman like you all this time. If anything, you should be thanking me for the years of care. Thanking you? For what? I've been the one paying for our living expenses. I don't see why I should be criticized. Your attitude of not respecting your husband is the problem. You don't understand your place. After he said he wanted a divorce, I felt no need to tiptoe around him anymore. But this just highlighted his terrible nature. Whether he looked down on just me or all women, I couldn't tell. But who did he think he was? He's greatly mistaken if he thinks he's so important. Well, fine. I have no intention of continuing to live with someone like you anyway. I'll sign the divorce papers and leave immediately. That would be helpful. Oh, I guess it's a bit late. He was smirking at his phone and then threw that comment at me. I didn't understand what he meant, but soon after, the doorbell rang. Who could it be? While normally he'd have me answer the door, this time he went himself. Maybe it was someone he knew. Just as I thought this, I heard a high-pitched female voice from the entrance. Could it be his mistress? By the time I considered this, she had already entered the living room. A young woman in a mini skirt and sleeveless top, heavily made up and blonde, was standing there. It was undeniable that she was my husband's mistress, but why on earth would he bring her home? It felt like a blatant disrespect. We weren't even divorced yet, and even if we were, there was no reason for her to meet me. I couldn't help but feel mocked, yet I managed to suppress my anger. Nice to meet you. I've only seen you in pictures, but wow, you really are an old lady. Those were the first words out of her mouth upon seeing me. A woman completely lacking in grace. That was my first impression of her. Of course, being my husband's mistress, it was natural to have a bad impression. However, there was something about her that made me feel nauseous just looking at her. Well, she seemed like the perfect match for my husband, who had easily betrayed me and looked down on me. It was sad thinking about the child they were expecting, being raised by two people who had no right to be parents. I could only hope that the child born to this woman wouldn't lead a miserable life. So, what do you want? You didn't have to come here, especially when I'm around. I just wanted to see the face of the loser whose husband I stole. But, honestly, it looks like you never stood a chance. What does she think of people? Expecting anything from someone so devoid of decency is a waste. Also, I recognized the keychain on the mistress's bag. So, no apologies? Stealing someone's husband and not even a word of sorry seems odd to me. Keep your howling to a minimum, loser. Why would I apologize? This world is survival of the fittest. It's your fault for being stolen from. Don't blame your lack of charm on me. Fine, you don't have to apologize. But don't blame me when you're judged for your character and lose your job, okay? Huh? What are you talking about? Are you trying to threaten? It's shameful, just stop. The real shame is on their part. I wanted to say that forcefully. But reacting to such nonsense is futile. I just wanted to speak my piece and get out of there as soon as possible. Staying any longer in the same space as these two traitors was the worst feeling. That keychain on your bag, it's from the company mascot, right? It's a pretty famous company. Do you work there? Yes. Unlike you, I'm a real success. Financially successful and with looks to match a model. You don't have a single thing on me. Is that so? What a shame. To think a company employee doesn't recognize their own CEO. What? The moment I said that, her expression changed drastically. I never expected my own company's employee to be the mistress. It just goes to show how small the world is. I was surprised too, but yeah, you're one of our employees. I don't plan on bringing personal issues into business or harassing you. But don't think there's a place for someone who steals others' husbands in our company. Wait a minute. That's got to be a lie. There's no way someone like you could be the CEO of such a big company. It's true. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask one of the managers? After I said that, she immediately contacted someone. Probably to verify if I really was the CEO. Then, she turned completely pale and started begging me for forgiveness. I didn't expect her to turn around so quickly, thinking a mere apology could erase her actions. If she thought so, she was seriously underestimating people. Society isn't so lenient. And thinking that a mere act of kneeling can absolve one's actions is a huge mistake. You've wrecked a household and thrown a life into chaos. A single act of prostration cannot possibly warrant forgiveness. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any harm. You knew he was married and still went ahead with the affair. And now you say you didn't mean any harm? Do you think that excuse is going to fly? It was just a moment of madness. And I'm a victim too. Yes, that's right. Despite using contraception, he took it off without me knowing, resulting in an unwanted pregnancy. Please help me. As she said this, my husband's face turned pale, but it's likely she was the one lying. She just admitted to a slip of the moment, didn't she? Not only that, but she desperately tried to prove she was better than me, taking every opportunity to put me down. After all that, claiming to be the victim now is just wrong. I'm not siding with my husband, but this is just too pitiful for him. Well, this must be her true nature. Wait a minute. Don't lie about me taking off the contraception. You were the one saying you wanted to get pregnant with my child. That's not true. Why would I ever want to have a child with a married man? So, you're playing the victim to get sympathy? What a lowlife. Shut up. I wish they wouldn't have such an ugly fight in front of me. Seeing the two who betrayed me betray each other. Do they not consider how I might feel? Or are they just shameless? Exposing themselves like this. I can't see them as people with any pride. They must be desperate, but they're mistaken if they think this is the end. I have no intention of helping either of them, and they both deserve to be punished. Well, whatever. I'm going to demand a fair settlement from both of you. You need to fully understand what it means to cheat on a spouse. And pay for it with your own experience. Wait a second. You don't need that kind of money, do you? Huh? What are you talking about? I mean, her company is massive, right? I wanted to talk about that too. You're the CEO there, aren't you? Yes? Maybe it makes $33 million a year, I guess. But working isn't just about the money for me. And being the CEO doesn't mean I won't claim compensation. No matter how much money one has, as a member of society, you must take full responsibility for your actions. The fact they cheated and hurt me is undeniable. They've taken precious time from me that I can't get back. They really should understand what laws are for. Because a child is coming, and money will be tight, that's not my concern. I'll demand my due compensation, and if you don't pay, I'm prepared to take this to court. Don't underestimate me. Please wait. Don't say things like that. Really? I'll do anything, even kneel, just forgive me. I truly regret what I've done from the bottom of my heart. Regret and kneeling now won't change anything. What I want isn't an apology or your kneeling. Do you understand English? But if you have time to make excuses, why not discuss with friends or family about lending you the money you can't afford for the compensation? As I said that, she broke down crying. It made me seem like the villain, but I haven't done anything wrong. It's my right to demand compensation for being cheated on. Whether I'm a CEO or not is irrelevant. As she wept, I packed my things and decided to return to my parents' house for now. Despite numerous attempts at contact from my husband and his mistress, I ignored them all. I left everything to my lawyer. A month later, the divorce was finalized. And I made sure to claim the compensation from both of them. Of course, I demanded a lump sum payment. I couldn't trust people who betray others, so there was no way I'd accept installments. As a result, my ex-husband had to spend most of his savings, and now he's broke. The mistress, still young, didn't have much money and had to beg her parents to pay off her debt. And from what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, those two didn't remarry but broke up instead. Likely, her playing the victim to me played a part. My ex-husband probably didn't want to remarry someone who'd betray others so easily. While I could critique their situation, not remarrying her was probably wise. Regardless of their relationship status, my ex-husband still has the obligation to pay child support. Whether he'll continue to do so faithfully, I don't know. But either way, they're set for a tough life ahead. Not only did they lose money, but also their jobs and personal relationships. The damage will only grow as they continue to live, and as time passes, they'll feel the gravity of their actions more profoundly. When they finally regret and feel sorry towards me, it will already be too late. People who can't distinguish right from wrong and only remain loyal to their immediate desires end up living lives like my ex-husband and his mistress. Meanwhile, I'm still successfully running my company and enjoying my days. I have no plans to remarry anytime soon, nor am I seeing anyone. I'm focusing on valuing my own time. The world is full of diverse individuals, each with their unique traits. However, what my ex-husband and his mistress did cannot simply be dismissed as a matter of personality. Of course, I have no intention of repeating their actions, and I cherish my relationships. Moving forward, I'll be more selective about whom I associate with to avoid making the same mistakes. Life is once only, and there's no time to waste.